Welcome to day 104 or 103 or 105. I think it's 104. That's the one we're going to plump for. Let me just go live on Instagram. Okay. Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? Yes. Right. Today's mini live challenge. We're going to talk about the importance of fact-based hoof care, understanding the real causes of hoof issues, and why we'll never ever get to the bottom of it by having these permanent Facebook spats, and why it's never going to ever nothing's ever going to come to a solution unless we have evidence. It's often heard that we don't give evidence, and we're always giving out evidence, aren't we? We're always showing evidence. Hence the reason we do these lives. We do them pretty much every day, and we do lives twice a week, because evidence is what we are rooted in. That's very, very important to us. So before we dive into today's topic, take a moment, reflect, share your experiences, and think about the hoof issues that you've seen, we've dealt with, you might have dealt with, the ones you've heard about, the ones you've seen on the Phoenix group. What was the turning point for you when you realized the real cause behind them? Because hoof care it used to be shrouded in a certain amount of secrecy. That's all been moved away now, because we are trying to show owners the real truth of what's going on out there. But when was the first time that you noticed? What was the biggest myth or misconception you've encountered about hoof care? How did it make you feel when you found out the real cause behind that issue that you were facing? So today, in light of things that are going on all over the internet, we want to talk about something that's very crucial, and that is the importance of fact-based hoof care. It's about using real evidence, sequential photos, measurements that are actual measurements that mean something sequentially, not one moment in time, but that means something sequentially, to understand what truly happens to a foot over time. Because that's never what we see. We see one moment in time. We don't see the process of what's going on with these horses' hooves over a period of time. And if we did, we then begin to see how the world has been focused very much on the diet side of it, because the last thing they want to do is blame the human being, rather than going, well, actually, if you look at those horses' hooves over a period of a year, they've changed dramatically. And there's only one person been trimming it, or maybe two, three, several people trimming it. But those horses' feet have not stayed to that horse's natural constants. And people laugh about this and go, oh, the hard sole plain. But like I said, we didn't make it up. This is something that Mother Nature made up, and that every horse has, to show you what that horse's balance is all about. So that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at the importance of fact-based hoof care, because there's an awful lot of misinformation out there. There's an awful lot of twisting the facts. There's an awful lot of spin put on a lot of things that aren't. If you look at the depth and you look at the reality of what's going on, the spin has got nothing to do with the actual reality. So because of that, I want to be here to remind you that proper hoof care, that stopping our horses getting into the problems of P3 rotation, stopping our horses getting into the problems of hoof capsule distortion, has to be based on facts. Unfortunately, in all the laminitis papers that have been out there that have talked about P3 rotation, etc., to do with systemic issues, they've never proven at all that P3 rotates under any of those circumstances, and that they also neglected to show a great huge part of the problem, which was the hoof care, before they did their experiments. So we don't want opinions anymore. That's what Facebook posts are absolutely full of. They're full of people's opinions. In my opinion, honestly, those three words I can't, or IMO, I can't bear it when I see that at the beginning of a comment. In my opinion, IMO. It shouldn't be about opinions. Mother Nature's not interested in opinions. The horse is not interested in opinions on the feet. Whether it look and opinions get and get, you know, people get very hot under the collar when they see what they assume to be an ugly foot that is causing issues when of course it isn't. Because they've neglected to look at what got that foot into that situation in the first place. When that toe, which they see like this, used to be up like that, nobody batted an eyelid. When P3 was in an incredibly rotated position because the toes had been short and the heels had been allowed to grow, and this would go, for instance, like a Coke can foot, nobody bats an eyelid then. They go, oh, that doesn't look right, but nobody does, worries too much and screams welfare until that foot is put in the right position, x-rayed, a vet goes, oh my God, that's actually much better. And then the toe looks like this. Same toe, no difference. It's just in a different angle. And now the world screams welfare. We've got to get away from opinions and outdated practices. So let's dive in, shall we? Who have we got on Instagram? We've got Pijadu. Don't know if I said that right. And Vile Dating. Don't know. Sarah FKH, I know that one. Angie Medler's with us. Oh, hang on, I've just jumped down the group. Dawn's here now. I believe I'm going to trial this. We double live day today, guys, as well. Double live day. I think I can show live comments review will appear on screen during the stream, keeping the conversation going, making your audience part of the experience. This is a new thing. This is a new thing that StreamYard have created. So if you write a comment now, it might just appear on the screen. I don't think it will show the ones before. Start writing comments. Let's see if it appears on the screen. I can't wait. Is it just Facebook or YouTube? I don't know. Oh, look there, down the bottom. It's very small. My first time with you. Glad I found you. Look at that. Oh, look. Shall I leave it there? Do you like it? Shall I leave it alone and just let it scroll up so that you can all see it? I don't know, because I don't know whether you guys can see what comments people are putting in YouTube and Facebook. I don't. I'll just leave it there for a moment. I'll leave it there for a moment and I'll highlight. Oh, I like it. It's a bit tiny though, StreamYard. We want it a bit bigger. Right. Dawn says, hi, Phoenix family. Vicky's here. Good morning, my darling. Good morning from everyone in Australia. Good afternoon from a Chilean radio, Ohio, USA. Hello, says Alex. Piers here. Hello. Jenny's here. Hey, Connie's here. Angie says, hello, what's in your hand on the YouTube banner? I'm sure they are not chopsticks. They are splint bones. Splint bones. Alexandra Cameron, communication between tubers from coronet band to the waterline. Boom. Right. Growth rates. Natural concavity. Arch. Boom. Hello, everyone, says Susie Pemberton. Hi, everyone, says Marshall. Good to see you. Suzanne Scheitz here. Pink Marigold. How? Look as sweet. It's coming up. I think that is, they've taken that from what happens on your mobile when you do a live, isn't it? I noticed when my horses became sound for the first time in years. Stella says good morning. That's fantastic, Laurie. Well done. Charity says, my first time with you. Glad I found you. I just saw that, didn't I? Karen says, whatever that emoji is. Hello. Deanna says, hi, all splint bones. Happy double live day. Karen Martinson's here. Hello, my darling. Deborah Jackson's from Dorset. Angie's give it a try. Well, we'll see how we go, shall we? It's so tiny. I can't read it. I don't know if you can. Hello from Oakville. Hello, says Becky. And Susie says we can see the comments on YouTube. Okay. Oh, you can. Oh, right. Well, I'll leave it there for the time being because it's quite good fun, isn't it? All right. So let's just dive back into it. Laurie's also on Instagram. Elevage de la Dalle has joined us. Good to see you too. So, okay. The evidence-based hoof care. Now, let's not start making opinion. Let's make it subjective. Let's put everybody's money where their mouth is, shall we? Should we start doing that? That's where we need to be. If we're going to have all this All this fighting going on in Facebook. They're doing it wrong. They're doing it wrong. That's a welfare issue. They shouldn't do this. Let's base it on facts then, because we've got to stop this opinionated, aesthetic driven hoof care, because what I think might look like a nice heel is not what the next person might think is a nice heel. Some people say, I like to see a good heel, and then others go, oh, take the toe off. Do you see? It's a nightmare out there. And because of that, no, the horse is going, hello, could you all just stop fighting about my feet and just trim them the way that Mother Nature, the way that I was designed, what I was born with? So what we need to do to stop all of this is what we're calling for from HM. Like we've said a million times, this isn't a method. We are following evolution. We're following what the horse evolved with. And it doesn't get you into hot water. It doesn't get the horses. It doesn't harm the horses. Do we get horses coming to us that have got problems? All the time. All the time. Can we fix them with our trim in a heartbeat? No. Is our trim just for us? No. Everybody can do it because everybody's got a horse with a hard sole plane. It's not difficult. But it's so much misinformation is put out there that everything becomes so complex. People say, I don't know who to believe. Well, I'll tell you what we should start believing: facts. Because when it comes to hoof health and hooves being incredibly complex, and the fact that including most hoof issues, including P3 rotation and laminitis like symptoms, we've all been taught that laminitis is basically caused by hoof care going wrong, out of balance. Now, I'm not saying that people are obviously doing it on purpose. Of course not. I mean, they are on purpose leaving the heels. They are on purpose leaving the bars. They are on purpose chopping the toes off. Those things do happen. But what they don't realize is that because they're going against what was designed through evolution over 55 million years, that this incorrect trimming causes imbalanced hooves and it's a form of hoof capsule manipulation. So what we need to understand is that the hoof capsule is the foundation of hoof health. It really is. And people ignore it. Researchers ignore it and they dive deep inside straight away. No, don't do that. You need to pull back and look at the hoof capsule before you start diving in and looking at the cells and looking at all those beautiful, amazing structures. Come back, step back and look at the hoof capsule over time, because that's the foundation of hoof health. If it's trimmed incorrectly, the hoof capsule, we create imbalance that directly affects the coffin bone, leading to P3 rotation and lamini failure. This was talked about, lamini failure, the lamella attachment mechanism failure, by Pollitt. But he did it from looking on the inside. He never really pulled back out and went, oh, if we'd actually followed that hoof capsule, it never stayed consistent because it's always growing. And if the horse isn't moving enough, it's not on the right terrain, it's not being trimmed correctly, then you can see the problems, right? The hoof capsule goes out of whack very quickly. So that's when we begin to see these laminitis-like conditions and symptoms, because the hoof capsule is not remaining consistent. We need to understand that. How are we going to prove it? Through facts, through actual measurements that mean something. When we're looking at diet and systemic issues like insulin resistance, EMS, PPID, it's not clear how much they exacerbate hoof problems in terms of inflammation. It's never been clear because these papers have been flawed for so long. But what we do know is they absolutely do not directly cause rotation. That is solely in the incorrect hoof care box. That's where that came from. And those are facts. Now, we've got these facts. We've got them through our rehabs. We are probably the only organization in the world, coupled with GTL, Galsworth Track Livery, that are rehabbing publicly for everyone to see with full x-rays in conjunction with vets We are the only organization in the world that's doing that. And it's really interesting that over a long period of time, doing it this way. And it's really interesting because we hear, don't we, we hear so many people saying that this is a really bad method, it's causing problems. But let's have those facts then. Because whenever we dig into those scenarios, what we see is not people who have actually been following Mother Nature's guidelines and constants. What we see is people who have not quite understood that concept and done something not quite the same and different. That and not kept the measurements, not looked at the true measurements, the ones that mean something, and the true facts of what's going on with that Hoof capsule over time. You've only got to look at a bunch of sequential x-rays to see how the Hoof capsule changes, right? So the truth is that the real problem of incorrect hoof care, incorrect trimming, and that lack of understanding of natural balance, natural hoof structure is the problem. If the horse's hooves are just not properly aligned and they're not trimmed with natural biomechanics in mind, visually you can see it, no amount of changes to diet will fix it. We oh, they got better in spite of whatever. You can have a horse turn up to Goresworth with shocking feet and stick them out on the track. They won't get better. Not until the hoof care is corrected. Now, the world knows that. But they still want to tell you that even though the hoof care is corrected, that it was something systemic that caused it in the first place. Yet just taking the systemic away, making those horses eat a better diet, putting them on a track system doesn't cure the problem. So what caused the problem in the first place then? Incorrect hoof care, not the horse's diet or the metabolic condition. Those improve, and we want them to improve, and we want the horse's gut to be better, and we don't want them to have all these systemic issues. But systemic conditions versus hoof care is the problem we are now facing. And it's time we debunked that myth that laminitis and P3 rotation are caused purely by diet. Yes, yes, yes. Diet is a problem. It definitely plays a role in body health, but it is not the primary cause of P3 rotation. It's not the cause of P3 rotation and distortion. Here's the things that we do know that are facts. Diet causes metabolic imbalances, so does pain. We know that when horses' pain reduces, often their blood results improve. We know that metabolic imbalances lead to common issues we see in the horse's body: fat pads, swellings above the supraorbital dip. You sometimes get swollen sheaths. We get lethargic, putting on weight. Some of them, not necessarily, are the biggest and the most obese, but all of those things are leading us down the road to go up, that horse is compromised. But with that, we then often get foot problems. And then the two are mashed together. But what about the horses that don't have anything wrong with them metabolically, and yet they have the same hoof problems? They don't have EMS, IR, PPID. They don't have any of that confirmed by blood results, and yet they still have P3 rotation. And they're skinny. What happened there? You can't just go and blame all of it on that and ignore a great swathe of horses who are not metabolically challenged whatsoever, and yet they have got horrendous hoof care. And then those that are put on fantastic diets are put on tracks. They're put on a better diet and management, which improves their health, but of course their pain doesn't improve because their feet are still sick. They're still poorly through imbalanced hoof care. And you'll never fix that. And you'll never fix the whole horse until you fix that. And then what we see metabolic issues reducing as well because of that. You can see how entwined it's become, and it's time to bring the facts in and to separate all of that mixed up information. Rotational displacement of P3 happens as a result of imbalanced trimming. For instance, over trimming at the toe, under trimming at the heels. These are actions that distort the hoof capsule and cause P3 rotation. I've been through this many times and we talk about it. We've talked about it on many lives. When you start doing this, you have changes in growth rates. That causes distortion throughout the hoof capsule, the distortion where one part of the hoof capsule grows quicker than the other half. And the usual issue that we have here, of course, is heels growing quicker than at the toe, because the toe has been chopped off and the feedback has all stopped, something that Alex mentioned earlier. These are real facts. They are reality. And you can't keep forever blaming diet and management for hundreds upon hundreds of people out there, thousands of people trimming horses' feet, and they're all doing it just slightly different. You cannot expect the horse's foot to just cope with all of those different ways that they're being trimmed. You can't. And it's almost ridiculous. It's almost laughable. And it's so silly to think that everybody's doing it the same. They're not. And because they're not doing it the same, obviously there's going to be changes with the hoof capsule. But the problem is that they've disassociated P3 from the hoof capsule, but it isn't. It's still linked. You've only got to chop up a few feet to see that. Systemic conditions, like we've said, insulin resistance and EMS, etc., they may impede healing. They may impede or worsen hoof quality, hoof health, but they are not the cause of P3 rotation. The tearing, the separation, because that true cause lies in hoof care. And if we're going to have this big fight all over Facebook about it, then let's stop all the opinions and let's put our facts on the table. Let's put our money where our mouth is. And that's what we're doing. People are slagging us off all over the place, saying that what we're doing is wrong. Show us the evidence, because we have plenty and we show it all the time. We are doing measurements. We have an army of students who are measuring horses' hooves constantly. We have an army of pros doing it. We have owners doing it. What do you think we're doing with those measurements? Do you think we're just ignoring them, or do you think we're looking at them? Put your money where your mouth is. Let's stop all this confusion and let's go, right, I believe diet causes P3 rotation, and I'm going to monitor this horse's foot through the next year, measuring it specifically in specific places to see what happens. And let's see if P3 rotates with the hoof capsule kept completely in a healthy, normal position. I know what the answer is going to be, but let them find it. Let's monitor a hoof capsule that has P3 rotation, like we're doing through our rehabs all the time, and let's watch what happens as we change the measurements, as we come back to, and we can see those measurements, we come back to a more normal foot. When the world wants to hyper-focus on that long toe because they think that that's a welfare issue, when they've talked about lever forces for years, there's no welfare issue there. The welfare issue is what led to that horse having that problem in the first place. We're talking about balanced hoof care. We're seeing stuff in practice all the time. We're seeing it through our rehabs, correct trimming, and balancing the hoof properly. The people that are coming out against us, ask them, how many hoof care professionals have they got working with them? How many have they trained? How many of them are going out there actually factually looking at the horse's feet? How many of them? You won't find any of them at this moment in time that are going out against us that are doing anything that like what we are doing. If we were doing things wrong, of which we can prove we're not, but if we were doing things wrong, then don't you think that rather than the odd one or two, with the amount of people that we've got out there and a group of nearly 12,000 people, that there'd be a lot more than the occasional one thing that pops up or two things that pops up? We'd be inundated with problems, but we're not. It's the reverse of that. The more that this industry continues to focus on diet, with the root cause being hoof care, that's where we need to then go, right, you're going to keep doing that. Let's bring, and you can't bring the facts to us. We're going to bring the facts to you. That's where we're going to focus our attention on actual facts. Okay, let's whiz back down. Whiz. Crikey, I can't find us now. Deborah's here. Hello from Dorset. Angie says, oh yeah, we've got that bit. Give it a try. Anne Chopra's here. Hello from Oakville. Becky says hello. Yes, we've done that. Dawn says, I witnessed my own evidence-based facts regarding the bars only this weekend. Woody became sore again, and on inspection I found that his bars had grown tremendously despite not being trimmed not that long ago, right? They cause pressure points. They are like lumps in the horse's foot. Again, you don't have to believe me. Go and find out yourself. Well done, Dawn. I like you having the comments on because we can see what the comments are coming from and it leaves more of the screen unblocked. Okay, well, I'll leave it on then. Dawn says, I then addressed them and he is now striding out again. Is all of this, he doesn't do well on uneven ground. Have you ever heard people say, he was okay after the trim and then he got better, or the reverse? He was worse after the trim and then he got better. Why? Nothing changed. Why? Because the hoof capsule's changing, for better or for worse. Dawn says this proves that the bars are incredibly painful to be walking on. How would you like it if I came along and I just stuck a few little, not a lot, but a few little bits of hard something? I don't know, we could take some wood, we could just take something and we sellotape them to the arch of your foot, and then we said off you go and run about. You go, no thank you, that hurts. Now I know that we're not meant to conflate humans with horses, of course, but it's an arched structure. There's an arch there for a reason. There's a bowl there for a reason, and that reason isn't for it to get filled up with compaction. That's and extra bar material is compaction. So well done, Dawn. Hello and good evening, says Uta. Emma says he'll look a long time, but still looking long time, but still listening, learning and sharing. Nikki is teaching my son maths right now. GCSE in full flow now. A Phoenix Warrior teaching maths. Great conversation stopper. Oh, get on, Nikki. Nikki's one of our pros and she's a maths teacher as well. Patricia says, hi, I'm here late, but I'm listening. Tracy's here. Michelle says, howdy, everyone. Anne says, preach, well explained. Thank you. You're welcome. Melissa says, hello from Alberta. It's lovely that you all come in from all over the place. Nikki, keep going. You know you're on the right path. Well done. Juan Gomez says, hi from Spain. Hi, Juan. And Marshall says, I've always trimmed bars, but never like I am now, right? I didn't know they were so important to remove. Thank you again for sharing the facts and the truth. Now, this stuff came out years ago, but the person who brought it out, Strasser, who was talking about how important it is to take, I mean, I knew nothing really much about Strasser. I've learned a lot more over the years, but that is so important that you shouldn't have them. And it's so important that the horse has got its correct foot. But because she was basically saying the hoof care in the world is awful, it's terrible. All these horses are coming into our clinics with just terrible hoof care, imbalanced hooves, and because the world wasn't ready to hear that, and they wanted to come down like a ton of bricks on her, and they basically expelled her from the hoof care world. And it's so sad because she was highlighting a massive problem, and that they had a reprieve. They all got a breather from that. And now I've come back with Gary and we're going, this isn't going on. We are going to come down with the facts. You can come with your opinions and you can say you don't like us. I get it, all of that. But let's see the facts. Let's see those in the sequential x-rays and photos, because those are really important. The only way we're going to quieten this down, and it'll never go quietly, will it? Of course, is by addressing the true issues and properly, factually. How are we going to know if we're on the right track? Data. That's it. Data. Real fact-based evidence. Photographs, x-rays, proper meaningful measurements, and making sure that we see videos of these horses rehabbing. That's what Gorsworth is doing. That's what we're doing. We're all doing it. And those are the facts. If you want to come out against us and actually come up with some evidence, then please do. But don't just come up with opinions, because that won't hold up eventually against the facts. Carry on, but it won't. And I'm glad I've pinned my mast to where I have pinned it. I pinned my flag to the mast I've pinned it to. So that's what's going to show us data-driven facts are what's going to show us what's going on with the hoof. Sequential x-rays. If we take x-rays over time to track the alignment of P3 in the hoof capsule, that will tell us a story. And we are already doing that. These are critical to understanding if the hoof is improving or deteriorating. People just chuck an x-ray on a comment of our detractors and go, oh, well, how did that happen then? Well, I can show you how it happened, but it'd be even better if you had sequential x-rays. My horse went down with laminitis. It rotated overnight. Do we have x-rays of what it looked like before? Because it was probably, would have been, not probably, definitely already rotated. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was. And it just got tipped over the edge because the heels keep growing and the toe keeps going. On the double live tonight, I'm going to attempt to try and show you what they think is happening and what's actually happening. So tune in later on YouTube and we'll see if we can do that. We need to see if the trimming efforts are working over long-term sequential x-rays. That's why we are taking x-rays with vets. We are working with vets over x-rays every month for some of these horses. That's not cheap, because we're putting our money where our mouth is. We're paying for that. We haven't got funding. Nobody's coming down and funding me or coming down and funding Gorsworth or Bethan. We're putting our money where our mouth is. So why don't they do that? Because without all of this, we're all just opinionated guesswork people, aren't we? If we don't have sequential photos, we need photos taken from multiple angles. Show it not just from the side. We need caudal shots, lateral shots, oblique shots, sole shots, toe shots. We need full angles of these feet. Now, we've got 3D software, haven't we, that's coming around now. It's getting better and better and better, that's able to take so many photographs and turn it into a 3D image. This is how it's going, folks. This is where it's going to. These photos need to be consistent and they need to be taken over time. They need to be taken from the same angles. They need to show us the hoof capsule changing. Because if we only have one set of photographs and we're relying on an owner's memory or a hoof care professional's memory, we're going to miss out on the big picture. And that's what's been going on in the world for decades. We've just been relying on everybody's anecdotal evidence. Now, let's not make it anecdotal. We were blamed for just saying it's all anecdotal. Well, we're not doing that. Now we're proving it because we're taking copious amounts of measurements. And if you're not doing that, then you should, because if you want to come out and say that what we're doing is wrong, you need to prove it, and you can't prove it through opinions or misinformation. We need to track that progress or lack of progress over a longer period. We need objective measurements, not subjective markups. These measurements will track with photos and x-rays. These measurements will track things like the heel height, the toe height, toe length, sole depth, angle of P3, vertical heights, vertical depths. These will give us the real data to evaluate if we're heading in the right direction or if we're heading in the wrong direction. If we see P3 rise, will the data show us that? Of course it will. You can't be so naive to think that you've got a foot that's changing and nothing's going on the inside. This is what we're proving, basically, because that's what they've been saying. So those measurements are going to allow us to assess how much the hoof capsule is being distorted over time and whether it's improving or getting worse, because owners need to know this stuff. Sophie's here. Hello, my darling. You did some great trims the other day. I saw them. Thank you for sharing. Wonderful. So we have to hold ourselves to these high standards. They're holding us to these high standards, and we're going to hold ourselves to these high standards. We're not afraid to do that. We are not afraid to stand up and go, we're going to do it. We're going to bring out the facts. But if you want to fight us on this, so have you. And so far, millions of pounds have been spent on funding laminitis research, and they've not done this basic first step. Number one, follow the hoof capsule. Nobody's done it. Not yet. And now we are on not just 1, 2, 3, 4 cases, hundreds of cases. We're going to hold ourselves to high standards in hoof care. We also need to hold the industry to those same high standards. For too long, guys, we've been relying on subjective photos, arbitrary lines, gut instincts. We need to demand better evidence, better tracking, better practices. It's time to stop tolerating photos with lines drawn all over them that don't match up from one set to another, that they're all just subjective because they don't, I've got 2 photographs of a lateral image of a horse, and I've marked up the coronary band, but on this one's not quite in the same place because I did that. We can't have that anymore. Let's start having proper real data. Consistent evaluation, sequential measurements that track the true health of the hoof capsule. And that will then show us what's going on inside if we take x-rays as well. So let's do it. That's my gauntlet thrown down to the ground. If you're going to come at me, let me come back to you by saying, let's track progress properly. Not with opinions, not with aesthetic-driven hoof care because you think it looks nicer that way. No, stop this now and let's start having facts. The hoof care community needs to prove that their methods are working, and they won't be able to. Just claiming that diet causes P3 rotation without showing the facts of how that hoof capsule changed over time in that person's care isn't enough anymore. If we want to raise the standards of hoof care, we need to start showing real results with solid evidence. And this means our pros too, This doesn't make it easy for them. It doesn't. They have to go out there and they have to prove themselves by following this data as well, or looking at it rather than following it, by seeing the patterns. It doesn't make it easy for them. They're just going to be held up just like everybody else is. But I tell you this right now, if we don't move towards this arguing will never stop. People will continue to do this arguing, continue to throw barbs, and continue to cause problems or fighting on the internet. They will and call us a cult, etc. So it's got to be done. It's got to be done. Absolutely, 100%. Here's your takeaway. Here's your takeaway from today's mini challenge. Hoof care needs to be fact-based, not subjective. We need real data, sequential x-rays, consistent photos, real measurable results that mean something to track the horse's hoof health and ensure that our trimming practices are truly working. Okay, I'm going to go. Thank you for joining me again. Think about how you can start, and I've told you this, and I will beat it into you, how important photographs are to track it, and x-rays if you can, and measurements. How you can encourage others to do that too. Don't just do it from opinions or memories. It's not good enough anymore. Thank you for joining me. Double live tonight. See you later with Gary. Thanks for liking. Please like if you're following. Please follow. Please subscribe. Please share. Please do all of those things, because until we do this, we will not quieten down the noise that is people. And it's noisy because people are backing up the fact that they have been lax and lapse in what they've been doing over the years, because they can't prove it either way, but we can. So we keep moving on. We keep moving forward. It's not about blame. It's about getting it right for the horse. Thank you, Phoenix Warriors, for joining me. I love you all. See you later. Bye-bye.